Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Join me every week. I release new episodes every Tuesday. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to episode 57. My name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle, and thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. So 2 weeks ago on episode 55, I told a story about my first speaking engagement when I spoke at the Banff Wellness Retreat, and that was amazing. I got to present as medium in the middle. So if you haven't listened to episode 55 yet, go back and listen to that because this is part 2 of episode 55. I'm going to be sharing today the experience that I had with my group reading, my second one ever. And since then, I've actually had another one, which will be a future episode. But I'm very excited to share this part 2. It was meant to be last week, but I had to sneak in the episode on Libra season before Libra season was over. So that was last week. So this week we're coming back with part 2 of episode 55. I know a lot of you are dying to hear it. So I'm excited to share this week. I do have an exciting announcement or revelation that I've come to. So this past weekend, I was teaching a Reiki Level 1 online course. It was, again, an incredible experience, a great group of people from literally all over the world, all over America and Australia and Canada, which was so cool to have everybody come together. But the group was larger than I normally accept. So normally I accept 8 students into my courses, and this is due to the attunements. So I have to give each student 4 attunements, and I don't want it to take too long. But in this specific case, there was a few people who had messaged me after the course was full, and I just knew they had to be in this course. So I went a few people over, and I realized on the Saturday that this was a test to see if I'm able to increase my numbers in my trainings. So I have decided that I'm going to bump up my trainings from 8 people to 10 people. I know it's not the biggest change, but this means that all courses that are currently sold out will have 2 more spaces available. So I'm going to be opening all those spaces today, so Tuesday, the day that it releases. So that means the December courses will have more space, as will the January courses. So if you haven't been able to get into a course, or if you still want to register for the courses in December, there will be space now. So in December, there is a level 2, December 12th and 13th, and there is a level 1 the first weekend of December. So if you are interested in Reiki Level 1 or Reiki Level 2, learning virtually with me, you can register on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. I will also have all the links below in the show notes. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or DM me, and I will get any questions that you have about the courses answered. In other exciting news, the first meeting in the middle is this week. So we are meeting on Thursday, October 29th. So this Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, the first meeting in the middle. It's only $11 to join. It's going to be an hour of development. So if you are interested, there's still time to register. You can do so on my website. And if this date doesn't work for you, there is also a meeting in the middle in November on November 26th. So they're all Thursday nights. There is also going to be one in December, a special one, but that will be announced early November. So if you're interested in joining my mediumship development courses, they're going to be monthly. Going to see how they go. Maybe we'll make them more often, but for now it's going to be once a month. It's only $11. I want to make sure it's super accessible and that anyone who wants to attend can attend. I will leave the link for all of that in the show notes. And if you want to book an appointment with me, I do distance Reiki. I offer Akashic records. You can book that on my website. I always have appointments available. Those appointments are held virtually, so they are available to you wherever you are in the world. The booking system will show up in your own time zone. So if you're worried about what time it is here and what time it is there, don't worry. When you're booking the appointment, it'll automatically convert it for you. So those are all my announcements. I'm very excited about what's coming in the last few months of 2020. It has been a wild ride, but so many good things. I will have another exciting announcement this week. It's more for in person, but it's still a very big deal for me and my business and new exciting change. So I'm excited to share that with my community. Thank you, everybody who thought that I got the iHeartRadio. I unfortunately did not, even though I had very good vibes about it. But who knows what can happen in the future. So let's jump into the card I pulled for this week. So I always ask when I'm shuffling, what do my listeners need to know this week? What's a little piece of information that can help us all out? And I pull from the Colette Baron Reid Enchanted Map deck. This week I pulled card 28, Movement. So I have pulled this card before, but it's been quite a while. So I'm going to read the full card description for you. So movement, you are in a time of positive forward motion. Yes, we are. All right, the full card description. This is the time for positive movement as you come out of a period of restriction. Oh, the moons, what's been going on? You're in a stage of new adventure and discovery. You may feel compelled to take a trip, change your hair, or move your home or business. I am moving my business. Wow, maybe this card is speaking directly to us. Regardless, you can't remain where you are anymore. You feel compelled to go forward. No matter what your inquiry, you will see your dreams take form and doors previously shut begin to open as if by magic. Movement is also a state of mind. The fog lifts and you now know the actions you need to take. This isn't the time for fear. Let go and move forward. Ooh-wee! I'm clapping over here. What a card. What a card for today. What a card for this season. What a card for this week. Last week, the energy was hard to deal with. I feel like people were dealing with shadow work. All the difficult things were coming up. Everyone was kind of feeling low vibe, low energy. And I feel like this card really gives hope for this week and the energies that we're all experiencing. It's time for change. It's time to shed that skin. Very much about what me and Court were talking about in Libra season, the episode last week. I think this next phase is the personal phase, is the shedding of the skin phase. And I think this is where people are making big changes. This is where we now are being pulled back, only to be now sprung forward. So if you've done the work, if you've done the hard work and the investment that you need to do on yourself, now it's going to all pay off. So I'm excited for that because good things are happening and not all of 2020 is doom and gloom. A lot of good things happen. I'm excited to kind of do a year in reflection, but I like to do that in December every year. Hint, hint, meeting in the middle will probably be around that in December, but more information to come on that in November. So this week's card was card 28, Movement. If you want to see the card, visit my Instagram. I always post it in my stories. If you want to see the physical card, you can find Medium in the Middle on Instagram and on Facebook. Okay, so this week I'm sharing about the group reading that happened. I'm going to kind of give a brief review about how this all came to be, but if you want the full half of the story, go listen to episode 55. To recap, I was working the Banff Wellness Retreat, my first presentation as Medium in the Middle, and my presentation was on the afterlife. I discussed what happens after you die based on my experience as a medium and the souls that I have spoken to. My opinion, kind of based on what I've gone through in the past 3 years. So as I mentioned, after my presentation, I had people coming up to me and sharing their experiences with me, telling me some stories. And I had one woman approach me asking if I did any after hours And I kind of said, oh, like, what are you looking for? And she said, well, there's a group of us that are looking for a group reading. We're staying at the resort till Monday. Would you be interested in doing a group reading for us? And for group readings, my immediate reaction is always no. I have a lot of fear around this, and I don't offer mediumship readings, so why would I offer group readings? Kind of blows my mind. But immediately I felt a sense of her father, and I got really, really, really warm. I started sweating instantly, and I said, oh, like, is your father passed away? Because he's coming through very strong. And she kind of got excited. She was like, oh, Dad? She's like, Mom usually always comes through first. Dad never comes through first. And I was like, oh, well, like, your father's here very strong. So then I thought to myself, oh, shoot, like, now I have to say yes, because she had a soul appear almost immediately. So clearly there's people that want to connect with this group. So I decided to say yes. So I said, you know what? Why not? Yes, Sunday night after the retreat, I have to work until 8 o'clock, but then I can come to your hotel room and we can do it there. She said, okay, great. So it was Sunday evening and the retreat had just finished and we were doing all of the teardown. And while we were doing the teardown, I started to get a bunch of information and I thought that it was for this group. So I was like, oh wow, Spirit's already coming through. I was singing this song and everyone was kind of looking at me weird, being like, why are you singing? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe it's for Spirit. Maybe it's for this group. I started to get all this information and names. So I started to write it down in my phone so that when I went to their room, I would have something to start with. I was like, oh, amazing. I have someone else to start with. Maybe this is more information on her dad. So after we finished teardown, I went over to their room and knocked on the door. So the 4 women were there and I said hello. I kind of made a few jokes about how group readings aren't as fast as you see on TV and my eyes are closed and I might look a little weird, but I'm going to try my best. And because they already had the soul come through, I think that that's great. And they said to me that they really didn't have any big expectations. They just really enjoyed my presentation. So even if they just got an hour to talk to me and get to know me better, that's all they were looking for. So no pressure. This made me feel really good because it is a lot of pressure when you walk into a room and people are expecting a reading from you. But I felt very welcomed and it was just a good situation. I was like, this is really nice. You know, they're really nice people. They're very understanding. And this is kind of the situation that I need to be in to practice group readings. So I immediately started with the information that I got during teardown. I said the name, I talked about the song, I told them all the information that I had, and they were all like, nope, not for me. I was like, oh. I went in super confident. I was not nervous because I had this information to start with. And now these ladies are coming back at me being like, no, that's not for us. And I immediately thought about this other woman at the retreat who approached me about her husband who had passed. And I was like, oh no, I wonder if this is her husband, because it very strongly felt like a husband energy. And I was also thinking, oh no, I've been around about 80 people all weekend who have been approaching me, asking about souls, asking me questions. I wonder if everyone who I've connected with this week is going to try to come through right now, and I'm going to be left with a bunch of information that isn't correct. So then I went into panic mode, and I thought, oh no, everything's going to be wrong, and nothing is going to be for these women. It's not going to resonate with them. I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to be wrong. So I was like panicking in my mind, thinking, okay, you know what? Her dad came through. Let's try to get him, because at least then I can start with some information. At least then I have something to go off of. So I tried to get her dad, and he said a few things, but not much. And there was 4 women in the room, so I was trying to work on distinguishing who's for who. And there was 2 women sitting on one side and 2 women sitting on the other side of the room. And I was like, okay, I think this might be for you. I think this might be for you. Spoiler, they ended up having 8 souls come through. So they had a mom and dad, 2 sisters, a brother, an aunt, a grandma, and another grandma. So it was amazing because they had a lot of loved ones who had passed to connect with. They had all gone to see a medium before, so they were very kind of understanding of the process. They were good about yeses or nos. They were really good at supporting each other, being like, oh no, that's Auntie so-and-so. Yeah, remember this? Oh, that G name might be Gerard. So they were really good. They knew each other's souls. And a few times the souls were getting confused almost. So I wasn't sure if I was still on Grandma X or if we were now talking to Auntie Jane. So they were like, oh no, that's Auntie. Oh yeah, that's Grandma again. So they were good at figuring out whose information was for who, because when multiple souls are coming through, it can be hard to distinguish who's saying what's for what soul. So when there's multiple souls coming through, it's kind of like, okay, so I have 2 women and a man. This woman is telling me about baking pies. The second woman is showing me her feet. And then I also have someone who's showing me a truck with a dent in it. Okay, that's for this person, this person, this person. All right, now let's get more information about who's who. And it's distinguishing who's who and who's saying what. Because I'm still new, this is something I'm definitely working on. And you have to figure out who's talking in order for the information to land and make sense. So that was really good practice for me because having multiple souls from multiple different people is something I definitely would like to work on more, and being able to organize the information and set out who is who. So I have discussed about how I do get kind of amnesia when I'm working with spirit, and especially in this situation, I was nervous and there was a lot of souls coming through, so I wasn't really listening to myself. I said before on this podcast that I need to actually listen to what I'm saying in order to remember what I said. Because I'm communicating messages from spirit, I don't actually know what I said and I can't remember it because it's not my thoughts. So the only way that I can remember it is if I hear myself saying it. And if I'm not in the mindset of hearing myself, if I'm just focusing on the messages, then I really don't remember much. I do remember specifically the woman who came up and asked me to do the group reading for them, and her father came through. Her mother came through with a lot of very clear information. So she talked about what was coming through to me as a wooden spoon on the wall, but I'm like, this looks like a really big wooden spoon, and it's hanging on the wall. Turns out it was a paddle that hangs on a wall in their cottage. So that was kind of cool. And I was like, oh, I would have never thought of a paddle. To me, it looked like a big wooden spoon. She also talked about these hanging angel wings that they have in the mirror at the cottage. She talked about raisin pie, making raisin pie. I had never even heard of this, so I was so surprised that I got it. And I was saying to them, what is raisin pie? And they were like, oh yeah, she used to make raisin pie. And she just kept bringing up raisins. I'm like, did she put raisins on something else that she used to make? Like, every Sunday she made this thing. And they were like, yeah, she used to make cinnamon buns on Sundays and she put raisins on top. I was like, oh, so interesting, because I've never gotten raisins as a piece of evidence. So I was very intrigued that this actually showed up and communicated well. There was another woman, her brother passed when he was only 2 years old and she didn't really know him. So he came through with a lot of information, which was cool. Of course, grandmas came through, and of the 4 women, there was one girl who didn't get any souls come through. So a few of them were her grandma and their grandpa, but they were talking to her mom. So there was a few things of souls that we couldn't place. So there was one about a motorcycle. There was someone else who was wearing tight pants, kind of like leggings. And a few times there was just information that wasn't resonating with the group. And I thought, I wonder if this is just souls that I've picked up over the weekend. And I wonder how I can distinguish that from who needs to speak to kind of the women in the room right now, and also who's just trying to come through because I've connected with their loved one over this weekend. So that was very interesting. So I spoke for about an hour and 20 minutes. They had a lot of souls that kept coming through, and it was really good. I felt super confident about it. They were very happy with the information that came through. And then we just hung out and talked. They asked me a bunch of questions, a lot of questions that I answer on the podcast, but obviously they didn't listen to the podcast yet because they had just met me. And we just had a really nice conversation. I ended up being in their room for about 2 hours, and they were just really nice, supportive people. And I think this was a very big experience that I was meant to have because I needed a little confidence boost. I needed a little support in group readings, in doing readings, in showing up and going with no information about these people. So I think when I was doing that teardown and I started to get information about the husband, it was enough information that I felt confident, but it got me to the room feeling confident. So even when I arrived and none of the information was for them, it kind of was like a kick in the gut, but it forced me to do the thing. So it was really interesting where I was like, I know Spirit did that on purpose because they needed to make me feel confident, but then they also needed to remind me that they'll show up. I just need to trust. So it was a really big trust test for me, for Spirit, for doing group readings, for trusting in my abilities, for just doing it, for pushing through the fear. It was scary and it was hard, but I just knew I had to say yes when normally I would have said no to an offer to do a group reading. I've been getting offers for the past year and I always say no because I don't even offer mediumship readings. So this also brings me to kind of my next aha moment. So in a few of my appointments these past few weeks, Spirit has come through very strongly. And in a few of them, Spirit has actually talked for 40 to 45 minutes, which has left me not a lot of time to do distance Reiki, because usually people will book distance Reiki, let me know that they're open for messages, then someone will come through, then they'll start talking, and then next thing you know, it's been 40 minutes and I haven't done much Reiki. So then I feel really bad because I'm not offering Reiki, but the client is still happy because they got to speak to their loved ones. So then I'm in this little pickle. So when this happened 3 times in 1 week, I was like, oh no, Spirit is doing this on purpose to force me to separate Reiki and mediumship readings because I cannot do both in an hour. I can't do a full distance Reiki session and talk to mom, dad, sister, whoever in an hour. There's only so much you can do in an hour. And I was just thinking they're doing this on purpose because they're nudging me to separate it. So I'm still not 100% certain that I want to offer mediumship specific readings. It just doesn't feel right yet, but I know that I'm on the right path. I'm being pushed in the direction. I'm being given opportunities to test my skills and gain more confidence in this area. So I know this is a change that's coming and it's something I need to work on. And this was also really shown to me again when I was offered another group reading that again, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And then bam, I'm like, oh, I'm doing it tomorrow. There's going to be 6 people there and I'm testing it out. So I will share that story on another podcast episode. And I think it's interesting that this all happened before the next Banff Wellness Retreat, which is the first weekend of November, where I'm actually doing a group reading for the room. So it's funny that I'm not worried about Spirit not showing up because there's going to be 50 people in the room. Alberta has different COVID laws. So there's going to be 50 people socially distanced in the room, but I'm not worried because that's 50 different people who all have souls that can come through. For me, it's like when it's only one person sitting in front of you and they maybe only want to talk to one person, it's hard because it's not up to me who comes through. It's not up to me if the soul comes through. No matter how good your abilities may be, I still believe that the soul has to be able to come through and communicate in order to deliver messages. That's kind of where I'm at. It was a very interesting experience, a very good experience. I felt great after this reading. The women were really nice. It was nice to get to know them and just talk to people in a very welcoming, supporting, encouraging environment, and just genuinely nice people. So that was super fun, and I had a really good time. And I walked away thinking, this is the beginning of something. This was a push. I said yes to this for a reason. Her dad showed up right away for a reason. This all happened for a reason, kind of really quickly, where I couldn't say no. And I know it's the beginning of something. I just have to keep trusting and pushing through the fear, which is hard because there's always fear when you're being taken to the next level, when you're tested to try something new, when you're being pushed outside your comfort zone. So this is my reminder for you that it happens to all of us. No one gets to just push through fear easily. No one gets to the next level without the work. No one else doesn't have self-doubt or, that self-reflection of what if and kind of thinking of the worst. That was the story. I hope you enjoyed it. It was really fun for me. And I remember calling my mom the next day being like, yeah, they had 8 souls come through. It was crazy. Thank you again for listening. I really appreciate it. If you are an iTunes user, I would love a rating and a review. It really helps other people find the podcast, which helps the podcast grow. It just takes a few moments of your time. Unfortunately, if you don't use iTunes, there's no other way to leave a rating and a review, but I appreciate all your messages from people who don't have an iPhone saying that they would love to leave me a review, but they just can't. Thank you so much. I love reading your reviews. I appreciate the feedback. If you want to follow Medium in the Middle on social media, we have Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to book any appointments with me, Distance Reiki, Akashic Records, if you want to register for a Reiki course, level 1 or level 2, or if you want to sign up for Meeting in the Middle for October or November, all of that can be done on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. Again, all the links are down below in the show notes. Super easy, just a click away. But thank you for listening. I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye.